Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving headfirst into a highly relatable, mildly embarrassing human experience. You definitely know the one. But more importantly, we're going to unpack the genuinely shocking cognitive hack happening inside your skull right now that makes my own brain and yours such an unreliable narrator. Let's just dive right in. Okay, so picture this. You're at a loud party, a friend is talking to you, but someone drops a tray of glasses right as they deliver the absolute most crucial part of their sentence. You totally missed it. But instead of asking them to repeat it like a functional adult, what do? You just nod. You smile, you let out a generic little chuckle, and desperately hope they weren't asking you a direct question about your career goals or why you're still single. Come on, we've all been there. Well, here's the plot twist. You might think you're just being polite by nodding along to an empty space in the conversation, but your brain isn't just nodding along. Your brain is basically acting as a highly confident, wildly inventive autocorrect system. It's literally in there writing fan fiction in real time, just inventing the missing words, and serving them up to your conscious mind as if they were actually spoken out loud. Scientists actually have a name for this. It's called the phonemic restoration effect. It's a perceptual illusion where your brain literally fills in missing speech sounds that are obscured by noise, making you genuinely believe you heard them. Think of it like your brain's built-in audio Photoshop. It takes a corrupted, noisy audio file, seamlessly edits in a fake sound to cover the gap, and plays it back to you so smoothly that you have absolutely no idea you just experienced a total hallucination. Now, to see just how long we've known about this little glitch, we have to go back to 1970. This was the moment a researcher named Richard M. Warren published a paper in the journal Science. He basically decided to prove exactly how much our brains lie to us on a daily basis. He wanted to know why, in a background of extraneous sounds, we can still magically comprehend individual phonemes, the basic building blocks of speech, even when they are completely masked. So to test this, Warren designed a brilliantly simple yet kind of devious experiment. First, he recorded a sentence that went, "The state governors met with their respective legislatures convening in the capital city." Then he took the tape and literally deleted a tiny 120 millisecond chunk of audio, specifically the first S sound in the word legislatures. In its place, he dropped in the recording of an annoying extraneous sound, just a cough. Finally, he played this doctored audio to his subjects and asked them to pinpoint exactly where the cough occurred and which sound was missing. Get this. Out of 20 undergraduate subjects tested, an incredible 19 completely hallucinated the missing S. They heard the word legislatures perfectly clearly. They didn't even realize a piece of the audio had been obliterated. Our brains completely repaired the missing audio segment so seamlessly that the illusion was practically impenetrable. We are literally that easily tricked by our own hardware. And this whole experiment brilliantly illustrates what's known as top-down versus bottom-up processing. Your perception of the world isn't just a video camera recording raw reality. It's actually a messy, chaotic mashup of two entirely different streams of data crashing into each other. So on side A, you've got bottom-up processing. This is the raw acoustic data actually hitting your eardrum, the vowels, the consonants, the annoying coughs in the background. But over on side B, you have top-down processing. This is your brain's highly confident predictive text system. It's using your past knowledge, your vocabulary, and the context of the sentence to guess what's coming next. Warren found that if he played a sentence fragment ending in "ite" but preceded it with context about snarling dogs, listeners would hallucinate the word "bite." If the context was about flying, they'd hear "kite." The top-down context entirely dictates the bottom-up hallucination. But honestly, let's pause for a second. How much computing power does it actually take for your brain to fake a word on the fly like that? What is physically happening inside your skull to pull off this seamless audio magic trick without you ever noticing? Well, research using brain imaging, like MEG, reveals this whole audio Photoshop team working in milliseconds. Your auditory cortex and Wernicke's area process the incoming noisy signals. But the real star of the show is the superior temporal gyrus, which actively represents the missing sound. It literally generates a neural signal for a sound that doesn't even exist. And here is the kicker. The left inferior frontal gyrus is actually modulating this process, predicting the necessary sound up to 300 milliseconds before it even happens. Your brain is faking the syllable a third of a second before the word is even finished. It's an incredibly proactive liar, just out there jumping the gun to save you from social awkwardness. There is, however, a genuinely hilarious caveat to all of this computing power. The illusion only works if the noise covering the gap is loud enough to be a plausible mask. If a phoneme is deleted and replaced with absolute silence, the autocorrect utterly fails. You just hear a weird, awkward gap in the word. Your brain is smart enough to know that missing audio without a noisy excuse means something is genuinely wrong. It absolutely needs the cough or the white noise as a cover story to deploy the illusion.
Section: From fake audio to fake memories. All right, so looking at what happens after the conversation ends brings us to a concept called confabulation. Confabulation is unconsciously supplementing episodic memory gaps with unrelated knowledge to form a cohesive, albeit distorted, recollection. Think of your brain acting like a panicky club DJ. The record just skipped massively. There's dead air, and instead of letting the silence sit, the DJ frantically remixes in another track just to keep the beat going. You aren't lying on purpose. Your brain is just filling in the gaps so the narrative of your life doesn't fall apart.
Because according to the constructive memory framework, memory is never, and I mean literally never, a literal video recording that you can just rewind and play back. Traces of a single experience are scattered across different locations in your brain. When you try to remember something, your brain has to bind all those distributed features together. And when that binding process fails, when there's a hole in the memory, your brain patches it using schemas, which are basically abstract information networks of how the world usually works. It's a reconstructive arts and crafts project, built on the fly, held together by glue and panic, not some pristine archival retrieval. And because of that, we can be really easily manipulated into patching those holes with total fiction. Take the concept of imagination inflation from a famous 1996 study by Gary Manning and Loftus. They found that if you simply force yourself to visualize a low-likelihood event from your childhood, 2 weeks later, you'll suddenly believe that completely fake event actually happened. Just imagining something inflates your belief that it's a real memory.
But it gets even wilder. In a study by Shaw and Porter, researchers managed to fabricate entire felonies in the minds of innocent people. Step 1, they told participants they committed a fake crime as a teenager, claiming the details came from a family member. Step 2, they encouraged visualization techniques and applied subtle social pressure, basically saying, hey, most people can remember if they try hard enough. Step 3, an alarming 70% of participants hallucinated full, vivid, false memories of committing the crime. I mean, I can barely remember what I had for breakfast, but apparently, with a little social pressure, my brain could invent a whole felony.
So it really begs the question, right? Is the memory of your boss yelling at you yesterday actually real? Or did they just express mild annoyance, and your own insecurities, fueled by stress and your schema of a bad boss, auto-corrected the memory into a dramatic screaming match? It's genuinely worth questioning if our everyday memories are objective truths or if they're heavily synthesized, highly confident autocorrects. Now listen, before you start having a full-blown existential crisis about the very fabric of your reality, you should know that we actually need these illusions. Linguists point out that human speech is full of imperfections, false starts, and background noise. If our brains didn't have this hallucinating autocorrect interfering with our language processing, human communication would require impossible, exhausting precision. We literally wouldn't be able to talk in busy restaurants or near busy streets. We evolved to prioritize continuity and intelligibility over objective pixel-perfect accuracy. We need the audio Photoshop to survive a noisy world.
Which leaves us with this final, slightly unsettling thought from the research. People view their memories as being a coherent and truthful account of episodic memory. However, the reconstructive process is subject to distortion. So as we wrap up this explainer, I leave you with this. Did you actually just hear everything I said, or was your brain just filling in the gaps the entire time? Thanks for joining the explainer, and keep questioning what you hear.